podcast, episode number 76. You join myself, Chris, my lovely two co-hosts, to my right, your left, the techie teacher himself, Mr. Tom.
I was wondering, there was a slight pause in when you were introducing us then, and I was like, what's he going to do? Is he going to throw something out there that I'm not expecting? But no, we're just like normal. How are we doing, Chris?
I could throw something random over to you if you want. Who's your favourite Jedi?
Ooh, it's got to be Obi-Wan. Absolutely.
Why Master did I think we were just going to say Plo Koon then?
It's going to be Master Kenobi. Hello there.
Hello there. And below him, joining us once again, the man of many pixels, Mr. Richie. Richie, who's your favourite Star Wars Cantina owner?
I don't know the names of them. I don't pay that much attention to the names of the Cantina owners. Like, I think, is it only how many Cantinas has it actually featured in Star Wars? Because obviously there's one in Mos Eisley. That's the famous one.
Mm-hmm. I'm thinking of Dex, who helps Obi-Wan out to find his Camino Dart, his little Camino Dart thing. Sounded more like Watto than Dex. That did.
Yeah.
How are you doing, Richie?
Cool. My legs hurt.
Oh.
Okay.
Well, we won't go too much into that one.
I've been out running a lot recently, and I pushed myself quite hard yesterday.
He's doing better than I am.
Running from things or towards things?
A bit of both.
Bit of both. Keep it interesting.
Running away from my car, then running back towards my car.
You take your car. You could just cut the car out and run less distance.
I meet up with someone else.
Oh.
So I drive to meet up with that person. Which actually, I was surprised when I checked the COVID rules for our area, is fine.
Wow. Is it Dex from Star Wars?
Yes, actually. I forgot to use a Cantina on it all them times I go out for runs with him like 3 times a week. I never bothered to ask him what he does.
He does.
What is happening?
He's got a bitch of a commute though.
He does have multiple arms. That is true.
Yeah.
However, just like this podcast, we have multiple arms of conversation. Thank you everybody for dropping in for episode 76 of the Sounds of Stadia podcast, your weekly podcast where we round up all of the Stadia and gaming news and sometimes some random exercise conversation, Star Wars chatter, and favourite Jedi conversation. Of course, this is the longest running Stadia podcast this side of Google Maps, where we all get together and talk about all the fun we're having with games and Stadia. If you are new to the show, if you're new to the channel, do give us a like down below, subscribe, click that notification bell so you are kept in the loop with all of the things we bring you, because we are quite busy over here at SOS headquarters, and we do lots of content for you lovely people out there in the world of YouTube and podcasts. This last week we jumped into Pac-Man, Richie, for some mega community tunnel battle action. Tom, we came across the same problem we had when we played the demo, where the game's not great at just letting you make a party or join a party. Yeah. You have to complete set challenges first before you're actually even allowed into the elimination battle royale mode, which we found out, but we got there eventually.
Yeah. What was a little annoying is, for the challenge maps, they're just continuous where you can focus on your generated challenges. You can just everyone pick a room, jump in the same room, easy. You can't do that with the elimination stuff.
Wow.
So the main part of the game, you can't it's just random.
Yeah, it needs some kind of lobby system or add everyone into a party. So you're there for the battle royale, but obviously if you could get 4 or 5 friends together and face off against each other, that's part of the fun. But yeah, we just had to randomly jump into elimination queue and hope we were added into the 64-person team to fight off against each other. But great pro game. Check it out, everybody, if you've not already, and check out our live stream too. I also jumped into Pixel Junk Raiders, the exclusive title just dropped on Stadia this last week from Q Games, part of the Pixel Junk series. I had a great time with it. Procedurally generated worlds. Very, very difficult. If either of you two have checked it out yet, there is a very steep learning curve, and I've seen many people from the Twitter and Stadia community posting how difficult it is. And I, for one, lost my weapon within the first encounter, and you don't get that back. The game doesn't preemptively tell you that you lose all weapons upon death. So that was a sharp learning curve. And then I had to fight with my fists for the first couple of parts, and those damn octopus squid creatures, whatever they are quite aggressive, quite frankly. Either of you two planning on checking out Pixel Junk Raiders? Is it in any of your wheelhouses?
I think it's on the list of many things I want to play. I had the chance to jump into a couple of the pro games this month as well. including Avicii and Vector, which I actually really enjoyed. But Pixel Junk is definitely one that I think I'd like to sit down and experience. It's just a matter of how much time I've got to invest in it to actually sort of, make a solid opinion of how I feel about the game. But it looks good. As you say, I checked the video out as well. Seems like my kind of game. Like I said, a little bit of like Risk of Rain mixed with Dark Souls difficulty in a way as well. But yeah, it's on the list.
Yeah, we should point out as well that it does come with state share integrated. So if you go check out my video, if you're up to the challenge and you feel you could do better without a weapon, my link for my state share is in the description of the video. So feel free to click that, check it out, and see if you can beat those damn pesky squid things that are in there. I don't have much luck with squid things, whether it's in Baldur's Gate. Is it Baldur's Gate?
Yes.
Maybe. Yeah, I got the right game. I always get it confused with the other one.
The elephants.
Yes, those things. But of course, that was great. I had a great time with that one, so go have a look at that and check that one out. But you are here for the Sounds of Stadia podcast. We do have a great show lined up for you this week. We're going to be talking about Project Hailstorm, and has it passed? Has it gone somewhere we don't know? Has the weather moved on to different areas? We're going to be talking about all of the exciting Stadia games that are coming, have come, and have just been rated for Stadia. Keep tuned for those, and we're going to be discussing the deep-dived intricacies of games as a service with Avengers, Division 2, and Outriders, all getting patch updates, fixes, glitches, bugs, season passes, extra content to keep you lovely gamers out there busy twiddling those thumbsticks. Richie, we also discussed last week at length the SideQuest. We broke down whether YouTube Premium and Stadia should be combined. I don't know why I suddenly started speaking slow then. Should be combined into one super subscription package, and loads of you out there let us know across all social platforms, Facebook, Twitter, the YouTube comments, what your thoughts on it were. It's a great conversation, a great proposition in my opinion, so go check that one out. It was a great
conversation. It was a great conversation. There's quite a lot of different perspectives coming into play, and I don't think any of them were like illegitimate. There's one or two people who just went no, and that's it. Great contribution to the conversation there, Dave.
Was it specifically Dave? I was going to say we have a couple of
yeah, but a lot of people. Some people were generally in favour of, some people were against it, and they all had their reasons. Which I've generally thought the Facebook communities did a good job in that conversation.
That's part of conversation, and our lovely Patreon Dave out there. He doesn't mean you.
Yeah,
just you, Dave. You disagreed with me. Because, of course, if you do want shows like Sounds of Stadia SideQuest, our topical off-the-beaten-track path, what is it, Richie? Off-the-beaten road? I always put you on the spot with this one. You should know this. It's your show.
The show we take a step off the critical path and explore more what the video game world has to offer.
That's the one. That's the one. Of course, yes, you can get that up to 5 days early as a patron of our channel if you want to give us a bit more support, or you just enjoy our content and you're one of those generous people out there. Head over to patreon.com/Sounds of Stadia, where you can join our Patreon team as part of the Sounds of Stadia community for as little as $1, and you get the content early. You get exclusive chats with us, game content, and much more. So head over there if you feel so inclined. But gentlemen, let's get into the nitty-gritty of the week, as they say. Tom, will you give us the rundown for the
super sexy special Stadia story segment, aka The news!
And it's been a very gamey week for news this week. We've had lots of ratings, lots of games drop, lots of games announced, which is good to see, because I think I mentioned last week I was slightly worried that the future for Stadia's games going into spring and summer seemed quite dry, with no clear big announcements or Connect on the horizon. We are just kind of heading into April with Outriders, and then Far Cry, which I think was pushed back to late spring, summertime, as the only big hitters. And I know the industry in general has slowed down quite a bit, but obviously the great thing with Stadia is that they're constantly trying to grow their library. So games that do exist on other platforms hopefully should be making their trickle across. And remember, we were told that there's going to be up to over 100 games coming this year. So as we wind down the year, we've said in previous years, 2020 was all about that they told us so many titles were coming. And as the months tick away, that means more games per month, just based on maths. or math if you're a part of our American audience. Take out the S. So, first story of the week, we got a title we've known about for some time, but it was kind of randomly dropped as part of the blog post. We got Saints Row the Third Remastered from THQ Nordic, dropped on the Stadia store. Caught everyone by surprise this week. It's getting some interesting conversation sparked around it. Saints Row usually does. If none of you out there have seen it already, it's essentially a Grand Theft Auto take, a spin-off as such, where essentially you have a city and wacky antics ensue with guns, grenades, bombs, tanks, sometimes superhero powers depending on the title that you're playing. Lots of dashes of purple. It does very much go with that colour scheme throughout. I've only ever dabbled in the Saints Row games. I don't know why. I may see myself as more of a Grand Theft Auto person, but they definitely have their time and place, and I've seen a bunch of people enjoy them recently. The biggest talking point, I think, within the community is the price. That's been the thing that's made people either raise their eyebrow. This game dropped for £34.99 in the UK, so just over $40 US. And I guess, Richie, I'll throw it over to you to start with. Is that price tasty enough for you, or is that way too much for a remastered game that's now several years old at this point?
Well, the remaster, I think, is only maybe a year or two old. The
Correct.
Initial release is quite old, probably getting on for 10 years now. But actually, before this, before the recording, I did look at my Steam library because I own Saints Row the Third, and I think it was like 2012, and I played about 10 hours back then. So for me personally, I'd say the price is too steep, but in general, I don't actually think it is.
Okay.
But because I know I wouldn't get, for me personally, the value out, £35 worth of value out of that game.
Yeah. So
but I think a lot of other people could get. It's a good game. It's just not up my. It's not in my wheelhouse, to be honest.
Yeah, the remastered release was May 22nd last year. So not too far off, less than a year actually since it came to Stadia, which is great in terms of future games coming with a short turnaround. The original release was back in 2011, November 2011 on last gen. Last gen? Last gen. PS3, 360 and Windows, so last gen. Oh, time's a ticking, gentlemen. How about you, Tom? Does 34? I know you're a big supporter of buying games and giving that aside, but giving developers that push to say, like, look, we want your games on the platform. Is this one of those that tickles your fancy, or is it too much this time?
It is a really fun game. Like, I can't emphasize enough, if you've not played the Saints Row franchise before, you should at least give it a shot, particularly if you are a fan of the likes of GTA. GTA 5 did a really good job of sort of like upping that level of comedy within the game, I suppose, even though it's still obviously quite an adult game in a way. But Saints Row, the third one in particular, does such a good job of going over the top with, like, even to the extent of the vehicles. Some of the stuff you get is really, really bizarre, like hover jets and the like as well, where you can just rain rockets on pedestrians. I mean, it sounds so vulgar at the same time, but the price does sort of warrant a little bit of questioning. Only to the extent of the fact that I do feel like it would do more success with a sale, naturally. But if you compare it to other platforms at the moment, it is sitting at the same price point on all other platforms, apart from the PlayStation Store, where it's currently on at a half price sale. And that's looking like a sale that's going to be ending within the next few weeks, but not immediately. So I think it's one to watch. It's not one that I'm going to pay out through the nose for initially, but with a discount to knock it down to about half price or sub £20 is probably where I'd be quite happy to pick it up.
Yeah. It's an interesting conversation to be had just with remasters in general, and it's been the whole conversation for like the PS4, Xbox One era. Where does the value sit? Because we know we've had the SpongeBob remake, we've had the Destroy All Humans remake from THQ Nordic, and now we've got Saints Row. Is that comparable to something like the Mass Effect Legendary remaster, where It's in the Bioshock collection, the Arkham Knight collection. Like, is the quality of the game initially detrimental to the price it should be brought back as a remaster for? Because let's face it, this game is inferior to Grand Theft Auto 5, which is about to get another remaster for next gen, current gen.
Yeah, I think you have to split remasters and remakes into separate categories. So a remake is ground up, rebuild the game, trying to honour what it once was. In which, in that case, I think it can justify the full $60 price tag for a game. However, a remaster is largely just improving textures, improving lighting, stuff like that, giving it a bit more, give it a new polish, and then putting it back out. Which, again, I think.
Sorry, continue.
I was just about to say, I think price of games is generally quite subjective on these things. I don't think £35 is overly egregious when it's the same price across, barring sales, across all platforms. It just comes down to, do you think it's going to be value for money? Because this is the game where I think you could easily sink 100 hours into if you're into that style of game.
Absolutely. And it is worth mentioning as well that at that price point, the remaster does come with all of the DLC from the original game too. So you get all of the original expansion mission packs. So there were 3 main mission packs that came out as part of DLC for Saints Row the Third. But there was also a ton of like smaller DLC. If you think sort of like The Witcher 3 levels of DLC with like the free stuff that CD Projekt Red released, little add-ons, little pieces of gear and vehicles and stuff like that. But if you are really into that sort of crazy over-the-top third-person running around, stealing cars, blowing shit up, and so on, definitely check it out, especially if it goes on sale. I think from memory, one of the most fun experiences I had with this is when I jumped in with a friend online and we played through one of the DLCs, which was the Genki Bowl, which was you had this crazy cat mascot, which for some reason I can't remember the exact reason why, but you were forced into some sort of like mix between, for the British audience out there, Funhouse meets like sort of like a Blood Bowl Saw type movie where you've got like massive over the top colors, fun party place where you've got to run through loads of obstacles. Think like your kids like soft play jungle centers, but then you've also got enemies firing rockets at you. You've got saw blades dropping from the ceiling, and it's a ton of fun. It's a ton of fun. I'd play it just for that alone. But at £35, I'm not going to jump into it just yet.
I kind of think it's unfortunately. Well, I don't think it's necessarily that badly priced, depending on who's buying the game. I think if you're into that style of game, £35, you're gonna have a good time. You're gonna be happy with your purchase in the end of the day. But I do think if they got it just sub 30, they would have probably sold a lot more copies and ultimately made probably more profit out of it.
Yeah, it is worth throwing out there as a disclaimer as well for anybody who is interested but doesn't quite want to commit to it without knowing more information at the moment, that the Saints Row games never had sort of like a big multiplayer online experience compared to like the GTA Online. You can only play up to 2 people with the game, so you can jump in with a friend, which is fantastic online. You can have tons of fun with it, but don't expect any more than one friend to join you at any time because it doesn't support it.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was only GTA 5 that added that online component for Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah.
But Grand Theft Auto 5 has been been an active game for so long, it feels like a long time in the works.
I mean, yeah, it's literally spanned 3 game generations. So that's a testament to how good it is. But I think that goes back to part of my lack of real interest in this game. I know I would have fun in it. I've played a little bit with my brother on PS3 days. But there's something about it that I get these kind of like parody vibes that, as a gamer, it doesn't do anything for me. I don't remember Saints Row the first game at all. I can't even picture it in my head. The third and the fourth one, very distinct because of the art design and the big crazy blowout stuff. But it's kind of similar in a vein to how I feel about like the Just Cause series. I know I would have fun having all that crazy action and such, but it just doesn't really do anything for me. I don't know why.
Is it because it's too much of a knockoff of GTA? Because I sometimes feel about some games. I don't know whether it's just like the elitist or some sort of element of snobbery that I've got or something. Where it's not. It's like having budget like It's like mom says we've got GTA at home. GTA at home, it's Saints Row. It's not quite the same thing, really, is it?
Yeah, like Branston beans instead of Heinz.
Just Cause is an interesting comparison because I kind of have a similar feelings about both Saints Row and Just Cause, where I'd have a good time for a while, probably about 10 to 15 hours potentially. But I think they're just a bit over the top, and like for Saints Row, I think for me the comedy is just very surface level. There's no subtlety in it, and I think I've just outgrew that sort of.
Yeah, possibly. I mean,
it's just a bit too silly.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it. The game's signature weapon is a sex toy bat.
I was going to say a large purple phallic object.
when I was 13, that shit would have been hilarious. I'm 31 now, though. It was like,
and it's still funny.
Okay, yeah, it is funny, but for a much shorter period of time.
Yes, okay.
Yeah,
it's like, oh, cool, I got the dildo back. Kill one guy. I'm done with that now.
But what about if you killed a granny on the street with it?
With a dildo bat. Yep. She'd love it.
Oh, wow. Dear.
Well, this is what weird.
you made it go weird. You made it go weird. But yeah, so Saints Row the Third, it's available now at £34.99 or your local equivalent. Hopefully, it does set the kind of the roadmap out there for other Saints Row titles to come. I'd like to see the fourth in the series, just so we have some kind of consistency with sequels. Because our next story up on the dock is a follow-up to the original Monster Jam Steel Titans game that dropped on Stadia last year. We now have the sequel, which is is it arrived or out? Why am I blanking on that? Is it out? I thought it has started rolling out this week. I couldn't remember because it was kind of like a stealth drop. If it was out or just announced. So yeah, it started showing up this week on midnight. I think it was like Wednesday night or something. It's out. It's available to pick up now, and I was curious to know whether this is the first sequel game we've got on Stadia.
Little Nightmares 2.
Oh yes, true. Yeah, that is a good one. That's
the first one that springs to my mind right there. Little Nightmares 2.
Because obviously now Stadia is hitting that kind of like 2-year mark coming up.
Yes.
We want to start to see that repetition of games. And there's another story we're going to be talking about later on the show regarding Football Manager and how critical it really, really is for the future of Stadia to start to get these sequelized franchises, these annualized franchises to be returning year in, year out. Otherwise, that argument that you see on the internet so much is the faith in the future of the platform. And if you're getting one game and then the sequel doesn't drop, you do start to question, are the developers interested in the platform? Is Stadia not doing it? If you can't buy the game, then you're naturally just forced back to the other platforms, which is a business model. That isn't what you want. Case in point, probably for FIFA, that drops in less than 2 weeks now. If there's no mention of FIFA 22, it does undermine your whole business model and your entire platform. That, right, if it's not coming day and date next year, how long does people's patience go for until they just kind of start to give up on it and cancel their pro subscriptions, stop looking at the titles coming because we hear no mention or roadmap? I'm sorry to keep saying our roadmap, but it's critical when every other platform has one.
Here's the thing for the roadmap. At the moment, I can't think of a game that's coming to Stadia that I'm excited for.
Ooh, hot take.
I don't think that's a hot take.
No, it's not.
No. It's. Can you name what games are coming up?
I think the
Far Cry and Outriders for me.
But even then,
I'm excited for.
Yeah,
and
Far Cry.
And I've been very vocal about my thoughts on FIFA. So
Far Cry has never been the kind of franchise that sort of really had me excited for it personally, and likewise FIFA, I feel like the wind has been taken out of the sails by the length of time that it's taken to come to the platform. Other than that, we're really sort of in a rut right now where Outriders is the only real game that's on the horizon that is new to an extent that we, I mean, and even then, like I'm more excited for it, but I'm not sort of the levels of excitement as I would have been for Cyberpunk or fingers crossed that we do get Mass Effect in the future.
When it's scheduled for May, right? End of May?
End of May, yeah.
Mass Effect.
I'm going to start getting pre-ordering soon. So.
Well, yeah, that goes back to our remastered discussion. I think that's quite highly priced. It's just short of £60, I believe, for the Mass Effect Legendary Edition. And I currently, right now, have my eyes on a PS4 version to play on my PS5. If that came to Stadia, I'd play it there. But I don't know if it's coming. So do I hang fire? Do I wait? Is it not coming at all? Does the entire month of May pass and then I end up just playing my PlayStation for the entirety of June because I'm playing every single Mass Effect game? That's potentially 3 full campaigns, 60, 70, 80, 100 plus hours that I'm going to be playing on a competitor's platform because the game's not here.
Yep, yeah. Mass Effect's a guaranteed purchase for me. I'm holding out on a pre-order, hoping that it might come to Stadia.
I wonder whether
if it doesn't come, I'm buying it on PlayStation 5.
Yep.
Yeah.
Same.
I wonder whether the likes of EA are actually waiting to see how FIFA does. I know that's a bold call to make, but because it's a different. I know exactly where you're going to go with it. It's a different branch of EA. It's still under the umbrella.
Yeah, there's a couple of problems I'd have with that. One, it's a completely different game that's targeting a different audience. Two, FIFA 21 I think is doomed to fail on Stadia, depending on the price. If the price is above £30, that game's failing immediately.
Yeah, I agree.
The game's 6 months late.
Yeah,
most FIFA players have FIFA already.
Mm-hmm.
True. Without taking too much of a sidestep away from the Monster Jam game we started off this conversation with, more trucks, new worlds, play with your friends, online, split screen.
And this one actually has online play as well.
Yeah.
Because in the first, I did check. The first one, we were actually planning a Thursday night stream on it till it came out. We found out it was local play only, which I think all three of us thought was just ridiculous.
Yeah, for a racing game, it's so easy to add multiple things in. But yeah, there's 38 official trucks. Upgrade them over the course of your career. Authentic stadiums and racetracks. So jump into all that action if that's your bag. Obviously, the original was a pro game eventually, so you could go check out the pro game title if you've got it in your library. See how you feel about it, and if the second one interests you upon its launch. Well, it's out now, so go check that one out instead. But yeah, back to the kind of FIFA conversation. Do either of you two think there is a world where FIFA is included in Pro? And then you're saying there, Richie, about the price and the value, and everyone who's got FIFA's got it. Okay. That is true. We know loads of our friends are football fans. They buy the game on release and they play it all year round. If it was to drop on Pro, all of a sudden that potential for Stadia, play FIFA on your phone, play FIFA on the move, play it on your tablet, not restricted to your console and your television, which it is for everybody else, could that be a big thing for both Stadia marketing and the game? And EA?
I don't know. I think the general industry's view on Stadia at the moment is still quite pretty cold and cooling. I think that might work if it was day and date with FIFA 22, but FIFA 21, 6 months later, dilutes the effect. I could see it being a pro sale, but I actually just don't think EA... It depends, because if EA are just banking on Ultimate Team, making the money back there, then it's possible.
Well, you've got to imagine
it doesn't feel like an EA move, to be honest.
Yeah, it doesn't, but I just keep thinking to myself, like moves need to be made somewhere.
Yeah.
And I just think, yeah, you're right. EA have made their money from FIFA, so why does bringing this to a platform so much later have any financial gain for them, really? For if the three people who play Stadia pick it up, great, you've made what, £90 on a whole game pot. Like obviously there's more than three, we know that. Yeah. But there has to be something. I just think there's got to be someone at the Google marketing team saying, right, we've been at this for a year and a half now. What do we need to do differently to really drive the numbers? You've got a franchise that's always in the top 10 sellers of the year. It makes hand over fist money for EA with Ultimate Team, like you said, Richie. How do we get it into people's homes and hands so everybody can play FIFA anywhere without any television needed or restrictions applied? Yeah. And I think that would be like make it either free or really cheap or part of Pro. And yeah, you're right. I don't think those conversations happen, in honesty. But
the models, they've already used the right model. The Cyberpunk's release. Cyberpunk was a good release on Stadia. It worked. It came out day and date. It got people testing out the platform. FIFA could do that as well. But it means having a marketing campaign centered around that game to bring people over.
Okay.
And I think the the game coming out 6 months on Stadia after its initial launch, and it's also a game that has planned obsolescence in it as well, because come September, when the next FIFA 22 comes out, the game's basically obsolete at that point.
Yeah, the next iteration comes out, and that's it. People just jump ship and move to the new one.
That's why I'm so harsh on this delay, because half of the game's lifespan is already passed.
Exactly, so it just makes me think, like, why would EA bother porting it over for probably, like, the unless, obviously, Google give them, like, a couple... It's kind of weird, because back to that conversation about Ubisoft games and Red Dead being ported for, like, tens of millions... would EA even want the tens of millions? Like, would 20 million from Google really make a dent in their finances to bother even attempting to port the game across when they've got their all like their entire catalogue of games to focus on already? It just part of my soul just thinks there needs to be something more to this than meets the eye, and there probably isn't. The game's probably going to come out on the 17th, and it's going to be $29.99 as part of a launch sale, and then we probably won't hear about FIFA 22. But
there's also another element to the whole FIFA story as well, is what version are we going to get, the PS5 equivalent version or the PS4 equivalent version? Because bear in mind, if you can go on Amazon right now, because I checked this morning, and buy FIFA 21 for PS4 for about £30, and that gives you a free upgrade to PS5.
I've got to be cynical. I'm going to be cynical once again. It's going to be the PS4 version that we get. Where there's no chance in hell that we get the next generation version of it, because I just don't think that EA are willing to put in the time and effort to do that. Regardless of what anybody out there who's optimistic for Stadia is probably thinking. I'm sorry to shit on your parade, but that's the gist of it. At the end of the day, we know from the history of things that EA is out there to make money as a business. We've talked about that in the past again and again. They just want to make sales. They're not going to dump like loads and loads of resources to getting the next generation version across to Stadia at the moment. They're just going to try to get a quick buck on the platform,
it depends,
and then go from there.
It depends on the contract they have with Google.
It does. But once again, we can't sit here and speculate what's going to happen. Yeah. We just have to look at the facts that are laid out in front of us and go, judge based on that. What I would like to see is I'd like to see a world. I'm just trying to think about how to up the player base and things like that. Again, I'd like to see EA actually consider opening up a almost like cross progression in a way, I suppose, with FIFA in the sense that you can carry across like your ultimate teams from one platform to another, like
Ubisoft have.
Yeah, but you don't necessarily, you still have to buy the game on another platform. I'm just trying to think about how it could work from EA's perspective. You still have to buy the game on another platform, but you can cross progress your ultimate teams, because there is no way that somebody who's invested in Ultimate Team on PlayStation is going to then buy the FIFA version and then start from scratch. That's not going to work, because the amount of resources, the amount of time they've put into getting those resources, they're just not going to try to replicate that on a new platform.
No, that's another thing with the PS4 and PS5 upgrade. It just transfer everything across.
Yeah.
Could you imagine
the technology's there to do it?
Could you imagine state share? So like I'm in the cup final, and I'm 5 minutes out from potentially losing, and I can't do this. You can save your state share in the 85th minute. You've had a man sent off. You drop it in the chat. You drop it in the link, and let someone else jump in and try and save you in those final 5 minutes.
That's great for making a narrative. To create a narrative from something like that would be brilliant. Let's say you've got a lower league team to a cup final, and they're against a really high-rated team. I'm not going to throw any names out there because I don't want to be biased in any way whatsoever. But yeah, let's say you're in that position and like you are up in the game, but the odds are stacked against you, and then it comes down to the final 5 minutes. It could be brilliant for creating some sort of narrative for the sport right there as well. But we've not heard anything about state share for FIFA.
Yeah. No,
I was thinking crowd choice as well. That could be great for like if you're streaming and like say like should I sign this player? Yes or no, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, even just crowd play. I need an extra player for this game. Look over at the subs bench in your chat.
Yeah,
let's get on the pitch, and then they just join your game. Again, like a sports game has so many outlets to really utilize the Stadia features, but
I'm just not optimistic about FIFA at the moment for Stadia.
I mean, I'm buying it. I've already said I've held off on it this long. I might as well commit and buy it and support EA and show them that I want to play the game. But just the prospect of playing it on my phone and on the tablet when the world returns to normality and I'm back on the road with work, or just being able to play it away from the big, like do my transfers while sat in a cafe on the motorway, or I don't want to be on the big... Or I'm in bed at night and I just want to do a couple of transfers or training sessions on the touchscreen element of it. It was like, you cannot do that on any other platform. It's so unique, and I think it lends itself so well, but guess we'll find out in 10 days.
It's down to price and the proximity to FIFA 22 that's making me less interested, unfortunately.
Well, we'll see. Speaking of other sports titles, though, we also got the ratings board, the ESRB dropped this week, that MotoGP 21 has been rated for Stadia as well. So that means we should see a release mentioned at some point in the next couple of days, weeks. It's generally scheduled for an April 22nd release date on other platforms. So that is on the horizon. So if you're a big MotoGP fan, it covers the official 2021 season, whether that's in much existence due to restrictions and such. The usual, like customize your bike, do a managerial career, tweak it, and take to the tracks. Kind of similar vibes for me from Monster Jam. I'm not that much into MotoGP sport, but it's a big title coming. Hopefully quite close. If it's had the rating and it comes out everywhere else on April 22nd, the stars are almost aligning with this one.
Yeah.
No Stadia logo on the trailer, mind, I will point that out, but a rating so close to release bodes well for me for an actual day and date drop. So
I think it's likely. I think it is likely. We quite a while back, actually, it was probably a good 30 episodes back now, the podcast, we talked about how we were getting all of these racing games coming to Stadia, and it definitely felt for a while that we were like the platform was becoming very much the place to play racing games for a while, with the likes of Grid and F1 2020. Yeah,
Codemasters
anything like that.
Really like.
Yeah, Codemasters definitely seemed to be all in on this, didn't they? So yeah, it's promising. It's promising.
Because this is what we need. It needs to cater for everyone. And I know we've seen some people say the pro games are pretty average this month. But again, games aren't for everything. The pro games, I look at them as a supplement to the service. I have the pro subscription to support the platform. Yeah. But also, I know fine well that every other month I get quite a decent little gem. Like, let's face it, we got Little Nightmares 2 for free last month. Yeah. Like that, so I know we've said that the FIFA being free is kind of beyond them, but let's face, like, Little Nightmares 2 was £25 on launch, brand new title. FIFA's an older title that we are, like, looking at EA's track history on Stadia, is probably going to be dropping at $29.99 or less. There could be room in there for coming free or heavily discounted. But these things can happen. Again, I just have that belief that something has to change in the wind this year from the marketing team or the deals that they're doing or their roadmap announcements or a Connect. They can't keep going down this narrative that clearly isn't working for them from a journalist standpoint, from the public space standpoint. Yeah. Whether COVID has had big limitations on what they've been able to do and spend this year. But as a business evolves over time, and I don't think it's going to stay stagnant year on year on year. Otherwise, it will die. It will fizzle out. They need to evolve and invest money, and hopefully we're going to see something change drastically at some point, hopefully sooner rather than later. Otherwise, the narrative's not going to change.
I just want something to be excited for coming to the platform.
Yeah, I think everyone feels like that right now.
Simple as that.
And I don't even know how to make that segue from MotoGP to Darksiders 2. There is no correlation. If you fall off a bike and get seriously injured, something I don't even know.
Your death will turn up.
Your death will turn up. But yes, another game that has been rated as well is Darksiders 2, Deathinitive Edition. Now, I just want to pause there, lads. I am a big fan of cheesy jokes, dad jokes, puns, play on words. All that kind of bad, terrible humour. Definitive Edition is a terrible stretch. It's such a bad twist on the word definitive. It's not even close.
Definitive. You do play as deaf in this game, though.
Yes, that's not the point. The play on words should be a lot smoother than that. Like, jeez. But yeah, so Darksiders 2, Deathinitive Edition. rated for Stadia. Hopefully we'll see that drop some point soon. Tom, I think you've probably played the most of this game in the past than either of us two have. Do you want to give the audience a little rundown of what this game is, what it plays like?
Yeah, absolutely. So you play, as Richie said before, you play as one of the four horsemen of the apocalypse. So in this game, you play the titular Death. And the way I would most describe this game is that it's sort of like an action ARPG sort of hack and slash type game, similar to, we discussed pre-show, a mix between like the older God of War games and your sort of like Legend of Zelda in a strange way, just in the sense of how the world is built. You know, the world is full of puzzles. You've got to think your way through different sort of levels, you know, like areas, I suppose, like
stages,
figuring out. Yeah, in a way, you've got to figure out how to like open doors with levers, use elevators, use portals, all these different things, just to traverse different areas to reach your objective. It's relatively open world as well, which is something I quite like. So you can obtain items and upgrades and things later on in the game that allow you to go back and explore different areas a little bit further. But it's a game that I've really enjoyed in the past before. I never got the chance to play the third one, so I can't quite rate it compared to the others. But the second one was definitely a game that I personally really enjoyed and put a lot of time into it. I'm excited to actually see this one come to Stadia. Again, sort of waiting to see what the price point is, because I'm still sort of feeling like we're getting a lot of old games that are remastered now coming to the platform.
Yeah.
Deathinitive edition. So I'm sort of waiting to see what's going on, and it sounds like Richie's got a little bit of background music to throw in there as well.
Yeah, apparently he's an ice cream van in my estate. Just ignore that.
Ice cream. A little bit less Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse, and a little bit more.
I don't know. Have you seen the ice cream vans in the UK?
That's true.
Four scoops of the apocalypse.
It's nice to actually see, like I was saying before, a game of this genre coming to Stadia, really, because we could do with more of these sorts of games. We know how successful the God of War franchise is, and we already have Darksiders Genesis. So
yeah, we joked about that not going on sale since launch. It's been on the platform since day one, if I'm not mistaken, right? It was one of the launch titles, and I think it only got a sale at the 10 of this year for the first time, so it held its price point like a Nintendo game does for a long time. And that was kind of one of the reasons. Now, is it? How much are we talking?
Darksiders Genesis is currently £20.99 on Pro sale. So
if there's ever a time to pick up it, it's certainly now. We should also point out as well that Darksiders 3, you mentioned it there, Tom. You said you've not had a chance to rate it yet. Funnily enough, it has been rated by the ASRB on Stadia. We've just not heard a peep about it. It was reported a good while back. So that could be 2 and 3, maybe dropping as part of like a bundle back to back. Some kind of like joint sale. If you buy one, you get discount off this for the follow-up. And again, we should also point out that they're all from THQ Nordic. So as much as we joke about them and the Embracer Group buying up all businesses, this clearly has a benefit to Stadia, because the more they buy, the more games it looks like we're going to get on the platform, because they seem to be all in between the Darksiders games, Saints Row, SpongeBob, Destroy All Humans. There's a lot of titles to possibly even rival Ubisoft for how many games are coming across. So great to see. Hopefully we'll hear about a launch date some point soon. There is a couple of ratings being stacked up that make me suspect that we're going to hear something from Stadia outside of a blog. Because let's face it, we're going to be in the middle of March soon. Like, how long do they go without an event like a Connect? Like, are we just expecting?
I was waiting for you to drop the word. I was like, how long before Chris says Connect?
We were told there was going to be another Connect, and now here we are ticking into the next quarter of the year, and we've heard nothing.
This was before they laid off 150 staff, though. So
that is maybe the person in charge of the Connect isn't there anymore.
You do have to just think, though.
Sorry, folks.
The Nintendo Directs and the Pokemon Direct that was like last month have now got me excited for at least 3 games coming to the Switch.
Yeah. PlayStation State of Play happened as well. They've announced the VR 2 and a bunch of VR titles. So wheels are turning. We've got some of Games Fest announced again. E3 is going to happen in a digital way. GDC happening soon as well. We've got to remember that across the course of spring into summer. So the wheels are turning everywhere else, it would appear. So yes, Tom, connect, please. The only
thing I'd have to say is I don't really think a connect can happen until Phil Harrison feels like it's safe to come out of his nuclear war bunker. Like he's got to lay low long enough to let all of this sort of negative press fly by. So maybe
could come out in a disguise, get himself a nice wig and sunglasses.
Hello, I'm Phil's brother, Dave Harrison.
Hill Harrison.
I think that's the wrong approach, though, because if he's hiding in his war bunker waiting for the negative press to disappear, it's just all those who are completely anti-Stadia are just digging their heels in further. So they just, whenever anything comes about, they're just going to tear it to shreds.
Well,
so I think he just needs to be brave and just get out there and tell us what is planned.
Be brave. Be brave.
Yeah.
But whether we do or not hear from Hill Harrison, we'll have to wait and find out. But speaking of grinding and getting loot, I guess, gentlemen, you're digging your heels in. We got a update from Square Enix and Marvel on a next-gen overview for their new title to next-gen, I guess, coming out from Crystal Dynamics. I wanted to bring this to the talking point, gents, because I know we've said a few times about what's lacking in the Avengers game, and I've personally put over 100 hours into it, and I've had a great time with it. However, what does it look like long term? And I think that the second half of this show definitely leans into talking more about games as a service on Stadia. Thankfully, all the titles we're talking about are very much here and present, which, as far as the platform goes, having a games as a service on the platform means it's going to be supported. They can't just pull it. It's there, it exists, they have to support it in a way. Otherwise, that's just more bad press coming your way. But yes, for Marvel's Avengers, we know the Hawkeye content is going to be dropping at the end of this month. But they came out with a weird statement this week regarding the next-gen launch. The XP level up system, essentially, Richie, you'll be thrilled to know about this, so will the ice cream guy. Once you hit level 25, the amount of XP required to reach level 50 is being tweaked to make it harder. So essentially from March 18th onwards, if you have a character who isn't level 50, it's now going to take arguably up to twice as long to reach level 50 through XP.
I've got 7 days to grind. I've got 7 days to grind.
I don't think that's a good idea, actually.
Well, their reasoning...
I think it's literally the opposite.
We'll give you the reasoning. So they have said the arc with most games as a service, most XP grind ones, they said it's usually there's a difficulty curve, and naturally the higher up your level goes, the more XP it requires to get the higher levels. It makes it harder, it makes it tougher, it makes like you're achieving something at a tougher rate. What they've said currently with Avengers is it's a straight platform. So from level 1 to 50, it's just whatever missions, whatever levels you do, the XP, it's the same per level. And what happens then is all of your abilities you unlock and the skill points you spend on fancy heroics, you get inundated with so many so fast. I think, Richie, when we've played on a Thursday night, we've leveled up like 3 or 4 levels in one mission. So then all of a sudden you're buying heroic points here, skill points here, and what Square Enix have said, or Crystal Dynamics have said more likely, is that it's a bit overwhelming for new players. They're getting new abilities and they're not able to implement them or use them because it's just so much flung at them so quick. And changing the XP curve will slow that rate down. So essentially you're not getting new skills every other level. It's going to be potentially 20 missions between each new skill unlock. So from their point of view, I get it. From my point of view as the player, that just means I have to grind out 20 more of the same levels to get to the same point.
For me, I think they're focusing on the wrong issue. If the issue is the players getting overwhelmed with too many skills and abilities, then the obvious answer for me is your characters have too many skills and abilities. You need to rework your talent trees. Mm-hmm. What you don't want to do is make it less fun to play, and that's what increasing the grind is generally going to do. But it still doesn't address the major issues I have with that game is, what's the point of leveling up?
Yeah. What is there to do?
Yeah. Because it's a very repetitive game, cookie-cutter scenario, and that's it. The campaign was fantastic, the single-player campaign. Genuinely fantastic. the multiplayer is distinctly mediocre. And it's exactly the issues that I had concerns when I saw like the initial trailers, where I felt they were leaning too heavily on the IP rather than trying to make a solid game, than using the IP to give that little special something.
I mean, that's my biggest take of why I enjoy it so much. I'm a big Marvel fan. I'm a big MCU fan. So playing as my favourite heroes has kept me in the loop. But I'll not deny the grind is, if I have to fight Abomination and Taskmaster one more time, I'm going to go crazy. How has this game been out nearly half a year and we're yet to get any more villains? They have the biggest catalogue going back through decades of comics of villains, and I still have to fight the same clone of Abomination every other mission. Like, come on, guys. Like, you've got 8 heroes in there. Get more villains in there. Let me fight them.
There's even issues I have with, like, we've played online together, and I don't ever feel like I'm playing with you. I feel like we just happen to be in the same world. We're not really, very rare are we combining in terms of any real strategy.
Yeah, there's no requirement
flat.
for us to complement each other.
It feels to me like the icing on the cake is fantastic, but the cake is stale.
Ooh, interesting analogy.
And it's got a beautiful cherry on top as well, with the MCU, the Marvel stuff.
Yeah.
But then the core mechanics of the game are just kind of a bit lackluster, unfortunately.
It's an interesting one because there's so much content that we kind of know about from like leaks and theories. Like, we know the Wakanda stuff was pushed back due to the unfortunate passing of Chadwick Boseman. We know PlayStation have Spider-Man still coming, and yet they've not mentioned anything about when. Like, is that just their break glass in case of emergency? Like, the game's floundering, get Spider-Man out and pull loads of people back in.
Again, I don't think the issue is just more content. I think it's retailoring what the content is and how it plays.
Yeah,
it's variety. That's with any games as a service. For me, it's like, again, it needs more enemies to fight. It needs more variety. I'm fed up of fighting robots as well. Like, give me some Kree to fight. Give me some Ultron things. I know they're robots anyway, but there's just got to be so much rich history they can dive into.
There's so much. Yeah, there's so much to do. So many things that they could potentially add.
Locations,
like more environments. You're playing for the same like 4 or 5 locations,
city,
with
desert,
just slightly
snow.
different tweaks. Yeah, with slightly different map tweaks.
Yeah,
where the campaign, when you played for the campaign, you constantly changing environments. Everything was well designed.
Personally,
the online, I feel it's just jumped on the map.
Personally, I'm sick of going into reactors and having to destroy the same 4 bloody levers to shut the reactor down.
When you shut the reactor down as well, and it does the big EMP blast that wipes out all of the robots, why does Tony Stark not shut down?
Because he's awesome.
I mean, imagine that. You just get killed and have to restart every time if you're Iron Man, because the big energy blast wipes it out. But yeah, it's games as a service. But you're totally right, Richie, with your kind of summary there, that doing the XP wasn't the biggest problem with this game.
Yeah.
And I do honestly believe there is a world where once there's more content and they add more characters, I do generally feel the great thing with the IP, which is the biggest benefit of this particular game, is that they can bring stuff in seasonally with new characters. Like, there is going to be a boost in players once Black Panther drops. There is going to be a boost in players when Spider-Man drops. There's such a wealth of characters they can bring in. I do think it will benefit the game, but they need to get the actual loop right. That Destiny loop that keeps bringing people back week in, week out for that grind.
Yeah, my hope is these new character drops and these new content drops like Hawkeye and Kate Bishop and Black Panther and eventually Spider-Man for PlayStation, they can be the things that give it a lifeline while they work on the fundamental issues. Because he is a potential great game there. I do believe that. They're just not nailing it yet.
Not indeed. But I guess we'll hear about that soon. And it kind of goes back to my thing about a roadmap, but they've not mentioned anything beyond Hawkeye. So again, silence isn't a great look, especially in a world where EA just dropped the ball on Anthem completely and said we're out. Like, we're not Anthem Next is not a thing. Like, the risk with games as a service, if it starts to flounder and the developers go quiet, I think over time the audience will just start to slowly back away out of the room with it. If Avengers, after Hawkeye drops in March, they stay quiet through May, June, at what point do people go, right, I've fought Abomination 563 times now. I think I'm done. I've had my fill. move
they
away.
almost need a war table around about the time Hawkeye drops. Go, Hawkeye's out now. Go get it. Black Panther's next. He's your date, and he's what we're working on going forward.
Yeah. Because this would have been a great jumping-off platform with next gen. It's coming to PS5. It's coming to Series X. It's still available on all the other platforms. With next gen, we're bringing ray tracing, and here's the pipeline for next gen: Spider-Man, Black Panther, Wakanda hub, open world, those bad guys from Infinity War, the little creature dog things, whatever they are. They're the new villains. They've got different attacks, different moves. You have to think differently as a hero. Oh, by the way, it's just quiet. Can't even hear the ice cream man. But let's move on from Avengers. I'm sure we're going to hear some updates and such on that one. But again, it's going to be available anywhere. Whether Stadia gets the boost to next gen, ray tracing and such, we'll have to wait and see. Use that time stone and go forward a little bit. And we'll see what the future looks like for Marvel's Avengers.
Oh, just add Doctor Strange already, come on.
And you could add there's no magicians in it yet. Again, characters. There's plenty of characters they can play with. Hell, I'd quite easily take a side mission with MODOK at this point, with his claw arms, trying to solve puzzles with those claw arms and that big head, something like that. Anyway, speaking of things passing through time, we got a APK breakdown from our friends over at 9 to 5 Google this past week, and the APK breakdown, unfortunately, the biggest thing is that Hailstorm has disappeared. So we've theorized, we've talked about it, but it's gone. There is no mention of Project Hailstorm. I'll throw it over to you.
Or is there?
Do we think it's changed?
I don't know. I wonder whether there's been so much speculation out there that they've decided to go, ooh, maybe we do need to keep this under wraps a little bit more, because people are starting to either get a little bit too excited or they're starting to get a little bit ahead of themselves. Like we've seen it happen before, of thinking like, oh, Google are going to announce something, and then it's been absolutely effing disappointing. I don't think Hailstorm is gone. I think it could either be preparation to announce something, or trying to stay hopeful. Maybe they have just taken it off the table for the time being to sort of, quell suspicion, quell the sort of community idea hub, as we would like to be, like the brainstorming and so on. I don't know. I'm not too fussed. Really, we don't know what it is, so
it's too easy to read way too much into something like this when we don't have a clue what Hailstorm could potentially even be. Yep. So it's hard. It's really hard to go, oh my god, Stadia's doomed. They've got rid of Hailstorm, when Hailstorm could have been something incredibly trivial.
Yeah, the reality is they probably didn't realise that people were going to take these like little bits of code in the breakdown of Android files and go, ooh. It just shows you how starved we are for news, really. That
9 to 5 Google have been doing it since day one, so
yeah, I wonder.
That's down to Stadia doing their own research.
Yeah, I wonder if at Google HQ they have like a Google Note file that says, right, we can't use the word Project Hailstorm because people just go crazy over any kind of terminology we use. So they have to have like an index of Project Hailstorm is now listed down as ABYZ. That's the code. So whenever the ABYZ, just so they don't give anything a title, because then people will go crazy with it.
Or alternatively, they have a list of loads of different project names, and they go, "Oh yeah, do you want to just put in Project Thundercloud this week, and see what happens out there in the community?"
I do appreciate though that clearly in the breakdown files that they're aware people are looking now, because they've got a couple of April Fool's jokes in there. There's this time around they had, please install an additional 640 kilobytes of RAM in your controller to play this game.
That way you get more ray tracing.
Yeah, 100%.
You get 640 more rays.
They've also said mesh must have holes of at least 7 millimeters in diameter for optimal gaming experience. Also make sure that any nearby wheels are spinning at no more than 20 RPM.
See, that was the problem with my internet cutting out with the podcast before. My mesh holes just weren't big enough, so I had to go drill some more.
Then big mesh holes. And my
anybody who's got a Google Mesh Wi-Fi knows you need to increase those mesh hole sizes.
It's like One Division's big hex network over your house. That's what you need. That's the trick.
And
the final one, which I really do like, which is clearly a nod to all of the shit that's hit the fan this past month, is in the text there's a little bit of code that said, "Sorry, this code can only be redeemed after January 20th, 2038," which is a nice little nod towards that Stadia will still be here in the year 2038 for you to redeem said code.
I sometimes wonder, do the higher ups at Google know that their code as they're putting this stuff in there? Or did they find out later? It's like, who put that in there?
Possibly not. I tell you what I am going to do. I'm going to live on the podcast. Live on the podcast. I'm going to go ahead to January 20th, 2038 and remind myself to redeem a Stadia code.
Wow.
And just wonder if future Chris actually has a clue what that means. It's going to show up in many years' time. I'm going to look at it and go, what the fuck?
48-year-old Chris.
What's mental here is the fact that to me 2038 seems really far in the future. It's only 17 years away. It's not
it's taken a while to scroll to on my calendar, if I'm honest.
I mean, you say only 17 years, it's still 17 years.
Yeah, no, don't get me wrong, but like 2038 still feels like futuristic to me, like really futuristic.
It's before Cyberpunk. Still.
True that.
Wow, it does take a while to get to when you're flicking through the months. With that, FIFA will be out before the time I get to 2038. Keep stalling for time, gents. Talk about code and how you love code.
Oh, code.
What's your favourite code, Tom? What's your favourite code?
Let's not get into that. I mean, I teach it as part of my day job, don't I, really?
Code of conduct.
Just having a quick look through the APK stuff. So one thing that's worth mentioning is that it does seem to be that we're moving towards having a party chat system as well now. What's quite interesting about the actual snippet of code is it does also directly reference Android TV as well. So whether we'll be able to actually have our party chat feature, so having our voice calls and so on, not just on our devices, but also on Android TV. Because just double checking, actually, one thing that's come out quite a bit recently is we've seen a lot of articles in the media about the LG TVs that feature Stadia as well, haven't we? Mm-hmm. And Richie, I know you've had some thoughts about the choice of imagery that they've used for the LG TV.
Oh, God, yes.
In particular, the controller choice.
Let's be fair, this was a one-off article, and they use an inverted PlayStation 4 controller to represent Stadia, because there's clearly no images of the Stadia controller in existence.
But what I don't like about it is when you say inverted, we literally do mean inverted, as in for some reason the buttons are on the left side.
The D-pad is on the right side.
The D-pad is on the left side.
Actually.
So what sort of monstrosity that controller is?
This is a better controller to use for it.
That's true. Yeah. So
the choice is over there.
The choice of imagery for that picture in the article was questionable, but we won't draw any conclusions from it.
It's just lazy.
Questionable at best.
Absolutely.
Right, I found the date. I've updated it. I've saved it as redeem Stadia code, and in the description, just so I give myself a bit of information, it says, "Hi, future Chris. Stadia posted a secret code in its Android data file, joking about its existence in 2038. Claim the code now, Chris. You're welcome, past Chris. Thumbs up. Also, congratulations on Sounds of Stadia podcast episode 1000." So I'll save that in there, and if we're still around, if we haven't retired or whatever, I'll keep you updated, ladies and gentlemen. Just like the FIFA countdown.
Fantastic.
That's gonna it's a Wednesday, by the way.
Yeah, that's a weird one.
If that is relevant. Speaking of, anyway, things in the future, we also got a little bit of funny news this week from the Outriders demo, which of course takes place on the planet Enoch in the well-distant future on a different planet. And the demo's out in the wild now. Richie, you've had a chance to jump in now, so all three of us have played the demo. You've not spent much time with it, but do you want to give us your quick first takes?
I feel like I'm being very negative in this show. It's like, Outriders, it's a good game. It's just not for me. If you're into the Division, you'll love Outriders. I personally, it was the point when I got past the initial, the prologue, and it came up and started telling me about world tiers and stuff. I just went, Oh god, here we go. I just don't care about these sort of persistent online games anymore. Like, and I was thinking about it. I felt games like this, I think, always lose something because you have to try and balance between playing with other people and also telling a good story, and they're not fully compatible in my opinion.
Yeah.
But I think if you're into things like The Division, you're into your online games, and you regularly just get the most enjoyment out of playing online with other people, I think this could be a fantastic game. It plays very well. I actually tried it on both PC and PlayStation 5. Out of curiosity. The reason I decided to jump on PC because I never play any games on my PC and thought, why not? And unfortunately, my graphics card isn't good enough.
Oof.
Really? I could get 60 frames per second on low settings. Bear in mind, I'm running a 4K monitor, and it was a bit choppy, a bit frame droppy. Unfortunately, so I switched to PS5 and got a better experience.
Choppy and droppy. So it'll be interesting to see how it does run on Stadia then. A couple of things they did pick out from the demo is essentially that because it is a demo and for really good reasons, your progress will carry over into the main game, which is great that because it's got the cross progression and such that even though I start my demo on PS5, I believe I link my accounts. I should be able to take that level over to Stadia when it drops. I don't know if they've clarified you can jump platforms, but you can definitely keep your progression. So I guess I'll find that out on April 1st. But yeah, they said people were basically loot grinding the hell out of the demo. Because again, that's what gamers do. We just try and break the code of anything. And yeah, they're going to be super powered come the game's actual launch. And yeah, they've basically had to nerf that so people can.
Just goes to show you how into the game people are, how excited they are, apart from me. For if anyone's interested and wondering why my graphics card couldn't keep up, I'm using a Radeon RTX 580, RX 580. Sorry, it's not exactly a beast of a card.
Beast, but yeah, and we're sure going to hear a little bit more about Outriders. I'm sure they're going to use the demo as like a beta test bed to see what the numbers are. Over 2 million people have downloaded and played it just over that weekend, so already it's doing fairly good numbers as a good entry point. But then again, so did Avengers. So Square Enix trying to get into this multiplayer market. Again, we should probably clarify as well. It is a single player story campaign. You can just have friends in that world with you.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's not we know it's not quite the Division as such. But yeah, my vibe was Gears of War meets Division. And yeah, personally, I really enjoyed what I saw. And like back to what you said a few moments ago, Tom, there's nothing really big on the horizon. I've just finished Immortals Phoenix Rising. I'm playing the DLC now, the first New God DLC. So like I am in that weird moment where I need to look at something else, and there's still 3 weeks to go until Outriders comes out. Obviously, we have FIFA in and amongst that for me. But yeah, I guess we'll see. We'll see how it lands.
Well,
you mentioned there, Richie, though, as well, the Division. And Ubisoft have clarified this time round that there is going to be a roadmap for support as we head into through 2021. And what they've announced is they're going to bring back the seasonal content from previous years. So they're going to be doing new stuff as well. But if you missed out on the kind of the Warlords of New York DLC that dropped and any of the seasonal content and loot and equipment, they're going to be replaying those seasons. So if you missed out last time, you can jump in year 2 essentially and pick up that loot. A couple of interesting bullet points which I wanted to just highlight, just to show you said there, Richie, about how many people really commit to these games, whether it's a demo or the main campaign. Within the Division, they've said it's got more players than ever before. 40 million players for the franchise. That's 4 times the population of Sweden. Random country they picked out there.
I appreciate it.
March 2020 saw the Division's highest activity. Agent Armour got destroyed 11 billion times. A funny one for me was there's one agent out there in the world who loves the Division 2 that much that he's revived more than 27,000 of his fellow players. Shout out to you.
That guy's a hero.
You are clearly destined to be the medic class in your life.
I wonder who ranked second. How far? What's that gap between 1 and 2?
27,000 revivals. Like one, the players around you are clearly not that great, but 2, you sir deserve a medal.
Maybe he's just luring noobs into bad situations, getting them killed so he can revive them to get their world record. We could be saying this guy's a hero, but he might just actually be manipulating people.
17 billion NPCs have had skill kills, and 156 billion shots were headshots. And 97 million floors were completed in the summit, which is the kind of like tiered kind of end game content. And one agent, we've got one who's the great medic. One agent has cleared more than 36,000 floors. So that's a lot of the division. And it's nice to see they've came out and said like they're going to keep supporting the game. We've said we know Ubisoft are really, really good at supporting their titles long term wise, and the Division is one that in the gaming kind of eco bubble that I listen to is one that's still quite often spoke about. I know the Resident Evil content dropped a few weeks ago. That brought a couple of people back in. And it just seems like people just enjoy that loot grind in a similar vein to Destiny. Whereas I know those three aren't involved in that, but we do know a lot of people who just keep going back to those same games month in, month out.
It's balanced well, so there's a lot of people who just that's what they do when they play games. They just play the Division. Mm-hmm. But then they keep bringing these additional content drops, so people who have kind of lapsed jump back in, play the new content, then bounce again. Mm-hmm. So they've got it.
Yeah, it's coming as well. We should jump back in and play the Division, actually. It was one of the first games I think three of us played on Stadia.
Yeah.
And
we never played it on stream.
No, we didn't. We actually played it just as friends offline.
Yeah.
Interesting.
What a waste of content opportunity. But we'll see, because we enjoyed Wildlands as well. Yeah. And I just like mooching around New York with mates and clicking heads.
Yeah. Fair enough.
So, final kind of big stories of the week to start to wrap up on the news is this one is kind of, it's got a sourness to it, so we won't end on this, but Football Manager, Richie, you're the Football Manager player out of the three of us. I'm more of a FIFA person. However, there's been a lot of movement in the community this past couple of weeks, constantly asking, where is Football Manager 21? And it's made all the more worse because we know Football Manager 20 was pulled from the store. So if you hadn't already purchased the game, you currently can't get your hands on it. Apparently this is something that happens with Football Manager every year to do with contract negotiations and players. It disappears and then it eventually comes back to the store once stuff's been renegotiated. Football Manager 21 has now been out on other platforms for over 100 days now. But to rub a bit of salt in the wound, it's going to be free on Xbox Game Pass, the other competitor's cloud service from Xbox and the team Microsoft.
To add more salt to the wound, Football Manager 20 didn't return to the Stadia store.
Oh, so has it returned elsewhere?
Yeah, I think so.
Ooh. So, get that salt and rub it in. Again, it doesn't impact me, but I've seen a lot of people, and they always tweet at Sega and Stadia and say, like, can we have an update? And their radio silence is it's just rude, quite frankly.
If it's not coming, just tell us.
Yeah. Because there's people out there, and again, if this happens with FIFA comes out, people play it, great. FIFA 22 is announced for late September. The new football season kicks off, the world starts to return to normal, people should be allowed back in stadiums in real life come that point of the year, fingers crossed. The hype starts to build, and are we going to be sat here, radio silent? September ticks by, October, December, January, February. Oh, don't worry, it's coming in March. St. Patrick's Day. Get your Guinness and celebrate a pint while we watch the football. It's not good enough.
Yeah, it suffers the same. If it does come to Stadia, it's suffering the same issues in my mind as FIFA, where it's probably past its prime. Yeah. I just actually double checked, and Football Manager 20 isn't on Steam.
Right.
So it didn't return.
Right.
Okay.
Which is weird. I find that weird.
It's such a weird thing. Full stop.
If it's like goes on sale like September and gets pulled in December, like, I mean, I know that is the critical sale point for that sort of game, but still, it's weird. But it's a shame because I think Stadia is a perfect place for a game like Football Manager. Because I know we've got friends who like Football Manager who don't want to spend a lot of money on a decent laptop.
Oh, yeah.
If you're being able to play on Stadia on a cheap Chromebook, that could be the perfect home for it because Stadia does support mouse and keyboard. But my assumption at the moment is they've looked at Stadia, probably looked at the sales numbers, and maybe had a nice offer from Microsoft and went, we're better off over with Microsoft.
Yeah, but unfortunately, it's a sad state of affairs when your competitor is now bundling it. Not only, you don't have to even buy the game; it's just part of Game Pass. So you've got your £10 subscription. You've got Stadia Pro in one hand, where you don't get it and you have to pay for it, or you could drop £10 to Microsoft Team Green and get the game for free. And yet here we are on Stadia, and we don't even have it as an option to purchase. And their Twitter account, radio silent, no press or mention from Stadia. We get it; it's down to the developers, but just put us out of our misery.
Yeah. Alas. Again, I've talked before. I want to see more PC-style games come to Stadia because I think there could be life for them on the platform, especially with the current GPU shortages.
Yeah,
there's
something where Stadia could capitalise, but they just don't seem to be at the moment.
Exactly.
True that.
And we obviously do know we've got Humankind coming in the next few weeks. That's the first kind of big PC game I'd say that's making its way over. So be interested to see how that lands on both how much it moves the needle and if it gives anyone a push to move other things across. Switching away then, final story of the week, gentlemen. Just wanted to quickly get your opinions on this one. EA announced that they are moving support from Criterion, who are the usual studio within EA's umbrella that looks after the Need for Speed games. And after Need for Speed Heat launched back in 2020? Heat. Either way, the last Need for Speed game.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're moving their team over to help out with Battlefield, the next Battlefield title, also known as Battlefield 6. Which a lot of people I've seen on social media would love that game to come over to Stadia as like the next the big EA game we're all waiting and expecting. Is which of the two franchises do you think we'll see on Stadia first? Tom, do you think it'll be Battlefield or Need for Speed makes its way over to Stadia first? Shooter or racing?
I have a different opinion between what I'd like and what I expect.
Okay.
What I'd like is Battlefield. What I expect is Need for Speed because I think it's just it's another type of game that I think they can just make a quick bit of cash on without too much effort. Whereas Battlefield, I feel like it has to have more support in terms of online servers and so on as well for games to be hosted on. So there's a bit of a difference, I think, between the two of them. But like I say, I'd like to see Battlefield first. I'd like to. It'd be a lot more fun to play personally.
I'm in agreement with Tom, but I think with Battlefield, for it to work on Stadia at the moment, unfortunately, it needs to be cross-play.
I think every big online thing at the moment needs to be heard. Like, if your audience is fractured amongst platforms, it doesn't benefit you as the developer because your audience is split. I think for Avengers, for Division, the Outriders, everything like that, Destiny have announced, Bungie said later on this year, it will go cross-platform, and that's going to have such a good injection boost for Stadia players and getting online.
I like Bungie's announcement of that because said, it is going to go cross-platform. However, we're working on the PS5, Xbox Series X versions first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, priorities.
That's for me. That's fine. Yeah, we're prioritizing this, but then we'll do this next. Good.
Told us they're giving us a roadmap. How about that? Surprise!
But I'd love to see Battlefield because I think Stadia is missing that first-person shooter in that sort of style. I think it could do really well. It could get a lot of people interested in Stadia again if the market is similar to how they did like Cyberpunk.
Yeah,
but it needs to be cross-platform.
Yeah, and it goes back to our conversation from right at the beginning of the show, which was the outlook for Stadia for 2021. If we take Far Cry 6 out of the mix, which we know is coming, Riders Republic, don't know how big that's going to be. It's not going to appeal to everybody. Outriders aside, what does the next 7-8 months have in store as people who like the platform, who play the platform on a regular basis? I do honestly feel like we need that tentpole end-of-year game to look forward to, which traditionally the way the game's released would be Battlefield 6. Are we getting Call of Duty? Probably not. Will we get FIFA day and day? We don't know because they're silent on it. Battlefield 6 is a big statement of intent. Like, yes, we're going to get a big title. Because again, I don't want to get here in December and all we've got is 100 indie games. Sorry, I don't want that. Like, as a gamer, I want to be playing the biggest, best things that are dropping this year.
I think Battlefield will be a massive win because there's a lot of talk. There's two games that come up a lot in the Facebook groups, and it's Grand Theft Auto 5 and Call of Duty Warzone. Battlefield could scratch that Warzone itch.
Yeah. I enjoyed Battlefield 1. Yep. Really good game.
I don't think I've ever played a Battlefield game.
Ooh, they've gotten better.
I'd recommend 1 because it does it. The stories in little vignettes in World War 1.
Is it the first one?
No. This is the 5th, 6th entry in the series.
So they're following Microsoft branding then.
It was it was almost it was because it went back to World War 1, but for the story it wasn't like one solid campaign. It broke it up into little vignette stories of like you focused on one person in the trenches, then it was one person in Italy, then one person, and you jumped around throughout the locations in different kind of outputs. But no, really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed the multiplayer as well. There's something about Battlefield when they do the big 60 player map campaigns, and it goes through phases. So you have like an attack phase, and then if you manage to take the checkpoints, the whole level shifts into a different part of the map. Yeah, almost like you would in real warfare, moving through the stages of the fight.
It's a bit more interesting than just straight up team deathmatch.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, it has team deathmatch as well, but the campaign ones I really, really enjoyed because it just made something different, and you could push back and forth in the battle, and the defensive team could actually get the upper hand and push the attackers back, and it made for some interesting combat stages. Similar to Battlefront,
Richie. Battlefront.
Yeah, Battlefront. It's the same concept, where there's different stages to go through. But we don't know yet. We don't know. So I guess we'll have to wait and find out and see. What's in the future for Stadia? Is Hailstorm a ton of games dropping? Will Game Pass give up Football Manager and bring it over to Stadia? And will Avengers finally change the villains from just Abomination and Taskmaster? But we'll have to wait to find out, and hopefully we'll be talking about all that on future episodes of the Sounds of Stadia podcast. That's been it for this show this week, everybody. Thanks for tuning in and checking out the podcast, whether in video form or listening on audio services around the world. A little couple of shout outs just to wrap up the show this week. Our good friend Lee over at Stadia Dad on Twitter is hosting a 24-hour charity stream of Red Dead Redemption in the coming weeks, looking after the Greater Manchester charity for Fair Share. Hashtag poverty is not a game, and we, of course, 3 individuals here fully support that charity. I've dropped my donation in there, so you can do that as well. Head over to the Twitter account for all the information in the news regard. They did an announcement video this past week. Go check that out. It's for a great cause, and of course everyone out there is probably struggling in the world right now with some shape or form due to the pandemic. So if you can spare a moment of time or anything donation wise, head over and check that out. It's a great cause. And a final shout out to the Google Stadia UK Facebook page, which us 3 are a part of. They're just on the cusp of reaching 1,000 members right now. I think they're about 5 short. So if you are from the UK and you are into Stadia discussion and chat, head over, search for Google Stadia UK on Facebook, and you'll find it. It's the Union Jack with the Stadia logo on there, front and centre. The news drops in there. People share discussion, articles about pro games and such. It's a great group of people, so head over and check that out if you are so inclined. Richie, what have we got on the topical table for our SideQuest mission this week?
So we're going to be comparing the offerings for portable gaming between Stadia and Switch.
Stadia and Switch, eh? You've got a Razer Kishi, Tom, so that's going to bring some interesting chat to the table. And remember, you can get the Sounds of Stadia SideQuest show up to 5 days early, not on free feeds, over on patreon.com/Sounds of Stadia. So from as little as $1.79, head over, check out our tiers over on there if you wish to support us that little bit further and get some content a little bit early. That's been it for me. That's been it for the news. Thank you very much for tuning in. My name's been Chris.
I've been Tom.
I've been Richie.
We've been Sounds of Stadia. Go get that ice cream.
Make it rain!
Goodbye.